Nerdly presents the feed where the reels unwind. Off the real podcast, digging deep in the grind. 80 flicks, low cash, big dreams in the frame. No blockbuster hype, just the realest in the game. Reviews so sharp.
28 years later, or as I like to call it, previously on 28 days later. This is very much a prelude to something else. This movie is not an actual movie. It's like the pilot of a TV show. I know we have another movie coming, I believe, in January, 28 years later, The Bone Temple, and I think they were kind of filmed like relatively at the same time, but this film really does feel like, hey guys, this movie's coming out in January, check out this movie first. Like, it doesn't really do anything at all. I was really looking forward to this movie because a good portion of it, the bulk of it, is set on Holy Island. It was filmed at Holy Island. I live about 20 minutes away from Holy Island. And then the trailers came out, and the trailers looked like this really cool action movie. That is not what we got. What we got was a piss-farting around Danny Boyle movie that is so pleased with itself. It does have moments of absolute class. It does have moments like that. But for the most part, this movie is a boring, wet fart of a movie. And we're going to talk about it. My name is Kevin Halden. This is Nerdly Presents Off the Reel. This is an Off the Reel review. We're going to talk about 28 years later. For better or worse, we'll get into it. I'll vent a little bit. We'll all feel better by the end of this. It's like watching season 2 of The Walking Dead. You know, that really boring season of The Walking Dead. Like on the farm that just seemed to go nowhere. This film kind of just goes nowhere. It does kind of just end where it begins, and there's a little bit in between. What we'll do is I'll talk about the plot of the movie with as few spoilers as possible, then I'll get into the cast and crew of the movie, then I'll talk about what I did and didn't like about the movie, then we'll get into my final rating of the movie. There are other people over on the website, nerdly.co.uk, you can go over there and you can check out what they wrote. A lot of people seem to love this movie, so absolutely check out what they wrote. I'll probably be quite middle of the road, because this movie just made me feel like, meh, it was on in the background and I watched it. So that's kind of how I felt about this film. So we start right at the start of 28 days later. Probably before that a little bit, because 28 days later kind of starts after the virus has kicked off. So yeah, we start when the virus is kicking off, and we're with a group of kids who are watching the Teletubbies, which I loved that, by the way. Bring back the Teletubbies. We need the Teletubbies to come back. Surely this is a case for the Teletubbies coming back. So the bunch of kids watching the Teletubbies, absolutely loving it, laughing and joking, and you know, all that good stuff. And then the rage virus kicks off, and the zombies and the rage beasts start battering down the doors and start just totally murking these kids. One of the kids is young Jimmy, and he escapes the violence and manages to go and see his dad, and his dad is a priest, and his dad's kind of like, this is the second coming, bro. Like, God is sending these people to us to be saved, or to save us, or whatever the thing was that he loved. He ends up getting murked as well, and little Jimmy is the only survivor. We won't see him again, but we will talk about him later. We then cut to now, like 28 years later, and we meet Jamie, and Jamie is played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, and he is living on Holy Island with his wife Jodie Isla, and his son Spike. So we didn't progress the way we were supposed to. The rest of the world on the outside, they did, but we've kind of just gone back to sort of olden days, medieval times. They don't really have a lot of food, and they're just living off the land. I loved this. I thought this was excellent, because absolutely the world would go to shit, and the world has gone to shit, and we are now closed off on Holy Island because it has a causeway where the tide comes in, nobody can get to it, you can only leave when the tide goes out. Love all of that. Jamie has decided that it's time to take Spike out into the mainland, because when kids kind of grow up and they get to a certain age, they need to go out to the mainland, figure out what's going out there, maybe kill a couple of rage beasts, and then that's them becoming a man. There is a little bit of back and forth, however, because Jamie's mum, Isla, is not well. She's kind of gone, it looks a little bit doolally, so she's not well at all, and he is only 12. Now, normally you would take your kid out when they're like 14, or is it he's 10, and normally you take them out when they're 12. Anyway, they all think he's a little bit too young to be going out there, and that shows when they get out there, because eventually they do get out onto the mainland, they go across the causeway, and it's also that Jamie can basically tell Spike about the world, teach him the way things are, help him grow up a little bit, and take a little bit of onus for himself. While they're out there, they bump into a couple of zombies. Spike has a little bit of trouble because he sort of sees them as humans still. He's not really seen the bad side of it. They get caught up in a bit of a zombie horde at one point, which is really bloody cool. And when it comes time to be going back, they meet Alpha. Alpha is this like 10-foot rage beast zombie with a massive dong. And believe me, you see every inch of that dong, and it's a good like 15 to 20 inches. It's a big ass dong this guy's rocking, and it's just flopping all over the place. He's like, I'm going to run about, I'm a rage beast, I'm going to not wear clothes, and you're going to see my dong. It's actually scarier than he is, to be fair. So they end up getting chased back to Holy Island by the dong, not the dong, by Alpha. Alpha chases them back to Holy Island across the causeway, and they go back, and Spike is kind of brought back to a little bit of a hero's welcome because Jamie lies a little bit. But what we also find out, what Spike finds out while he's out there with his dad, is that there is a doctor. Dr. Kelson is out there on the mainland, and he sets fires and stuff, and apparently he's gone a little bit weird. Now, Spike, being Spike and loving his mum and wanting to protect his mum, thinks to himself, well, if I can get my mum out to Dr. Kelson, maybe he can save her. So he ends up causing a little bit of a distraction on the island and then takes his mum off the island without anybody knowing so that they can go and find Dr. Kelson. There's not really a massive great deal else I can tell you about the plot without getting deep into spoilers. Let's talk about the cast. I've already mentioned some of the names, but Aaron Taylor-Johnson as Jamie is fine. He's absolutely fine. He's in the first part of the movie. He's not in it a great deal, I didn't think. His Jodie accent, his Newcastle, Northumberland accent, is fine. It's not quite Jodie, so it is a little bit Northumberland, and I did like that. But he is a Brit, so I know he's kind of attuned to some of that dialect. It did throw me off a little bit, though, when the movie started and they all started talking in Jodie, like, "How are you, man? Come on, Spike, let's get on doing, and let's take you out of the mainland. We're going to get across the causeway. Oh my god, it's a zombie. What we're going to do, Spikey lad?" Like, it is quite off-putting and weird when you hear those accents in a big blockbuster Hollywood movie, but everybody's rocking them, so it is what it is. Jodie Comer as Spike's mum, Isla, is fine again. She gets some really cool dialogue. She gets to say the C word. She drops the C-bomb about 100 times, which I loved, by the way, and in a Jodie accent, I love it even more. Jodie Comer's fine. Her character is absolutely fine. She's kind of a little bit crazy for the most part of the movie, but we do find out why. Spike, played by Alfie Williams, really, really good. Really, I cannot rave enough about this child star. Like, he is pretty much the crux of the film, so he, like, the moments he's spending with his dad, we have to believe that that relationship is strained. He's kind of seeing his dad for the first time when they go out into the real world. He's kind of seeing who he truly is and the way he is and why he is a little bit of the way he is. So we do get a little bit of that, and it does fracture things a little bit. I love the fact that there's this moment before they go out into the real world where he's got his Power Ranger and he's trying to decide, does he take his Power Ranger with him or does he not? And it's all to do with the adolescence. It's all to do with leaving your childhood behind. When I became a man, I put away childish things. And that's kind of what Alfie has to do, what Spike has to do in this movie. And that plays into the overarching narrative of the whole movie, in fact. We'll talk about the end in a second. So it does make sense. And then he has the moments with his mum. And you can tell that he really just wants to help his mum. He wants to save his mum. And along the way, he's seeing all this horrible, gnarly, evil shit, but he's just like, he's so laser focused on helping his mum. Let's talk about Voldemort. Or in this movie, Dr. Kelson. Ralph Fiennes is in this movie as Dr. Kelson, and he's probably the most captivating character in the film. I wanted way more of Dr. Kelson in this film. We could have just had a movie about Dr. Kelson, but I guess that's what makes him so likable. You don't have a lot of him, so the time you do spend with him, you just have to enjoy it. He's the one that basically turns around and says, look, your mum is not well. There's nothing I can do for her. The world has pretty much ended. We are in the shit now. It's post-apocalyptic times. Your mum, essentially, is going to die. The way Ralph Fiennes delivers these lines, the way he delivers this dialogue, without really saying the words, but absolutely saying the words. I loved all of it. I think Ralph Fiennes is one of the finest actors we have right now. I think he does what he does excellently. He is given a little bit of a bum hand in this movie, but that's to do with Danny Boyle and the writer Alex Garland. So let's talk about Danny Boyle for a second. And the main reason I want to talk about Danny Boyle is that I think this movie fails. It fails on so many levels. For me, personally, if you wanted a new entry point to this universe, that's fine. You could probably forget about 28 Days Later. You could probably forget about 28 Weeks Later. You probably don't need to know anything about these movies. If this is a new entry point, then that's fine. But that's not what this was for me. I needed something a little bit extra. I already know what the rage beasts are. I already know that the world has gone to shit. And then you've got this problem with the passage of time in this movie. Like, things just seem to happen. So they leave Holy Island. He leaves Holy Island with his mum, and they come across the Angel of the North. Fantastic scene. The Angel of the North being in this movie is not a problem for me. But that's in Gateshead, which is like 60, 70 miles away from Holy Island and would have taken days to get there. But it's almost as if they got there the next day in this movie. And then they meet this kid, this Swedish kid who's like signed up to the army and he's ended up coming over to the UK. He gets to tell us a little bit about how the world has continued outside of their world. So, like, he's got a mobile phone. He tells them about his friend being a delivery driver. They don't really know what a delivery driver is anymore. You know, he talks about broadband and the internet. They don't have the broadband and the internet. Instagram, Facebook, they don't have any of these things. So he turns up, and I liked this part of the movie. I liked the way they showed us that, yes, the world did continue to go on the way it went on, and that plays until the end. However, you guys didn't, and that's where you are now. So they meet this lad, and I did quite enjoy these moments. But he gets killed. So Alpha, the big dong guy, you remember the guy with the big massive dong? He rips that guy's head clean off and leaves like the spine dangling. And then when they find Dr. Kelson, they still have his head. And Dr. Kelson like has built this bone temple of skulls, which is like memento mori. It's like remembering life kind of thing, memories and stuff like that. This is what he's doing. And I really liked his aspect of the movie. It's really, really cool because he like, yes, the world didn't go on, but we have to remember the dead. We have to remember what happened here. And he burns his skull, burns all the skin off his skull, and it takes like 2 minutes, and then they put it on the temple. And I'm just sitting there going, dude, what's the passage of time in this movie? It makes no sense. Everything's happening within 2 seconds. Give me time to breathe. For a movie that's so bloody slow, the pivotal moments of this movie happen like that, within seconds. I just think they could have done a better job with this movie. I really do. If it's to serve as getting people back into this universe, back into this world, you know, job done. But if you are a fan and if you've loved that first movie and the second movie, in fact, like I know a lot of people didn't like that second movie. I didn't mind it. It was fun. It was the Aliens of the 28 Days Later franchise. You know, like the first Alien was like the thriller horror. The second Alien was the action piece. That was 28 Weeks Later. It was the action piece. I got no problem with it. But I don't know if they just got really, really hyped up and pleased with themselves over the fact that there was all this talk when they were making the movie, and it still is a bit of talk that this was the first massive big budget blockbuster that was filmed completely on iPhone. And that's fine. If you want to make your movie on iPhone, that's absolutely fine. If you want to make that, like, not a gimmick of your movie, but a thing of your movie. But let's be honest, independent filmmakers out there who only have 2, 3, 4 grand, they are making feature movies on iPhones, and they still look great. You didn't do anything here with an iPhone that really wowed me. There is one kind of droney shot where the guy with the big dong, the Alpha, is chasing them across the causeway and it keeps going up into the air, and that's cool, I guess. But like, you're not doing anything groundbreaking just by using an iPhone to film your movie. You've got all the money in the world to make that work. You're not bereft of money on this movie. The budget would have been a good budget. Whereas I've known other directors, other filmmakers on the independent level who had pennies and still made a great looking feature film on an iPhone. So you didn't wow me too much there. Before I get into my rating, I do want to quickly talk about one thing that I absolutely adored about this movie. And there are a few things I like about this movie. It's just the negatives do kind of outweigh the positives for me. But it didn't do anything startling anything amazing until the last 5 minutes of this movie. And I'm going to talk about it because everybody's been talking about it. And it's the most interesting part of the movie. So, at the start of the movie, with the Teletubbies and all the kids getting killed, there was the one kid, Jimmy, that got away. Jimmy reappears at the end of the movie. Now, this is 28 years later, so this kid would now be like into his 30s, mid-30s. And Jimmy turns up in his mid-30s, played by Jack O'Connell. He turns up with a blonde wig. I actually think his hair was actually just blonde, but like nice and grown out. He has a crown on his head. He has a medallion around his neck. It's his dad's cross medallion hanging upside down, which I loved. He has rings, sovereigns. He has glasses. He's wearing a tracksuit of all things. He's clearly inspired and modelled on Jimmy Savile. Now, if you're an American or anybody else out there who isn't British and you're not 100% sure who Jimmy Savile is, and I'm sure most people at this point know who Jimmy Savile is, he was this guy who is like an icon. He was an idol in the UK, big, larger-than-life character in the 80s, kind of the 90s. He died off after that. But he was this huge TV personality. Did TV shows like Jim Will Fix It, where he got these, like, you could call them Make-A-Wish kids onto his show and fixed it for them by making their wish come true, their dreams come true. Which 9 times out of 10 was probably just to meet Jimmy Savile and sit on his lap. Which, bad turn of phrase, I am sorry. So what happened was he died in like the mid to late 2000s or something like that. And then it came out that actually Jimmy Savile was a raging pedophile. Like, he was the biggest monster in the worst possible ways. The man was a knight before he died. He was a knight of the realm. They took the knighthood off him posthumously. Like, obviously he's dead now, so it doesn't really matter. But all these stories started coming out. Horrific stories. This man had the keys to children's homes. He had the keys to children's hospitals, like sick and dying kids, women's refuges, all sorts of things. This man was getting up to an evil bastard. Like, the darkest thing you could think of in the UK, and that's what this guy did. However, in terms of 28 years later, this is what I loved about it, because I saw all these people losing their shit. Like, how could Danny Boyle and Alex Garland add this into the movie? And it's pretty genius, to be fair, because they've taken a dark point in the UK's history and they've kind of just, they're making a joke out of it. Not really a joke, but we're having a bit of a laugh with it. Because in the world of 28 Days Later, all that shit happened after the rage virus happened. So the rage virus happened, so they have no idea who Jimmy Savile actually became. So when he turns up dressed up and he's got a bunch of goons all dressed up in Jimmy Savile tracksuits, they didn't know who he became. They didn't know all that dark shit. So it's actually kind of funny that they idolized him. And I found that to be the best part of the film. It just made me laugh, made me cringe. It made me go, oh, shit. It made me think a lot of things. So anyway, Jimmy turns up, and Jimmy is played by Jack O'Connell. Brilliantly, by the way, because Spike kind of gets trapped by this rage horde coming towards him, and Jack O'Connell turns up, and he's like, do you mind if we help you? I'll give you a hand. We want to help you. And he's got this whole team of people all dressed in tracksuits. And the movie turns into an action movie. It turns into the Power Rangers. Again, the kid left his Power Ranger at home, left his childhood behind, and here he is, meeting a bunch of guys in tracksuits, red tracksuit, blue tracksuit, pink tracksuit, green tracksuit, black tracksuit, the Power Rangers. I loved the last 5 minutes of this movie. Which leads me into, this next movie is going to be great. This next movie is going to be excellent. I can almost forgive everything you did in this movie because I think the next movie is going to be something quite special, something to behold. And if Jack O'Connell is the lead in the movie, I am super happy about that. If the Cult of Jimmy's is the lead thing in this movie, I'm going to be super happy because from what I can tell, Spike has kind of joined them now. He's going to be friends with them. He's going to team up with them. And then obviously we know Cillian Murphy's coming back. His character in the original movie was Jimmy. Are they idolizing him? Is he the one that idolizes Jimmy Savile? I don't know. To say that in 2025 just creases me up. I love it. That was the one thing that really killed me about this movie. So yeah, if I had to give this movie a rating, honestly, it's a middle of the road rating for me. I'm giving this movie a 2.5 out of 5. I don't think this movie did anything spectacular up until that last 5 minutes. I think this movie's very beige. I think it's very bland. The whole, I'm going to take my son out and teach him the way of the world now. And then the whole, I need to take my mum out to try and save her. I don't know. It just felt like we were killing time. This felt like a killing time, a bottle episode in a TV show, a previously on, to get us back into the universe. And if that's what it is, fine. But they didn't sell it that way. They didn't sell it that way in the trailers, in the run-up to. They didn't sell it in that way. They sold this as a little bit of a horror action, and I don't think this movie had that much horror or that much action, to be fair. The last 5 minutes was all the action we got. I will say, best supporting actor has got to go to Alpha's dong. Like, that thing, Jesus, it was huge. I was watching this movie with my daughter, for Christ's sake, and then he turns up with a muckle big floppy dong, and my daughter's like, I mean, she's like 17 going on 18, so it was okay, but it was still kind of awkward. And then my wife walked in and she's like, wow, look at that thing. And I was like, yeah, I know, right? So yeah, for me, 2.5 out of 5 for 28 years later. It's a very middle-of-the-road movie. I do think my appreciation of this movie will go up after I've seen the next part, 28 years later, The Bone Temple, which I think comes out in like January, February. I do think my appreciation will go up for it then when we've got the whole picture of what's actually going on. But for now, this movie's a very middle-of-the-road movie and didn't do a massive great deal for me. So yeah, check it out, please do. Hit me in the comments down below if you think I've been too harsh, if you agree with anything I have to say, or just let me know what you thought of this movie. That's where the conversation continues. In the meantime, hit that like, hit that subscribe, and come back for my next review. And to do that, if you hit the notification bell, you will be alerted immediately when that drops. So yeah, see you next time. My name's Kevin Halden. This is Nerdly Presents Off the Reel. This is an Off the Reel review of 28 years later. Danny Boyle's latest. Meh.